Hi, thank you for inviting me. I am actually delighted to be here. In some ways, Simone and I never met in person. We only met virtually, which is kind of this disembodied virtual space. But we've been following each other for in terms of work for the last years. And the connections with Simone's work for me are kind of serendipitous, in the sense that not only we share kind of a similar biography. We're both Italians, but we train abroad and we spend a long time in the UK. But there is something more, in the sense that we often, our research questions often intersected and interconnected. To give you an idea, and Simone has always published something important for me as I was starting a new project. So to give you an idea, I was writing a paper on the 5-star movement in Italy in 2015 with Emiliano Trere, and we had to draw on Simone's work on the movement and the article that he published with dalla. Again, in 2018, when I was writing my book on the child data citizen book, I ended up my last chapter on AI visions and myths. And again, I found an article from Simone and Ballatore, which talks about imagining and the thinking machine, right? Which for me was very important, because it kind of led me to think and explore my concepts with what he had written. And then in 2020, I started developing this idea for a project, because after my child data citizen project, I came to the conclusion that we were faced with one of the greatest delusions of our time. And I was drawing on Weizenbaum and his idea of delusion and delusional thinking associated to computers. And I didn't, of course, I didn't know yet Simone's concept of banal deception. And my idea was that one of the main delusions of our time is the belief that predictive analytics, cross-referencing, facial recognition, emotion classification, and all the other technologies that are used for algorithmic profiling of people provide us with a deeper understanding of human behavior and psychology. And actually, when you look at that, these technologies often only reproduce the reductionist, a biased, and a stereotypical understanding of human life and experience. So I started becoming interested in this idea of the delusion, and I launched the Human Error project to make sense of it. And it's a project that is aimed at looking at how we are negotiating and experiencing this delusion of algorithmic profiling. And then Simone sent me his book, which was a really precious gift. Now, I know that I don't have much time, but there are a few aspects from his book that I really would like to mention because they have been very important for my work. And I think they are important in general for the research agenda at the moment. I think in the first place, Simone uses the term deception to explore the use of signs or representations that convey a false or misleading impression in our interactions with media technologies. Now, his concept draws on a long standing tradition in different disciplines, because we're talking about STS, we're talking about human-computer interaction, but we're also talking about anthropology. So this long tradition that artifacts are filled with cultural beliefs, aspirations, fears, and desires, and they're human, right? But I think that Simone's book does something a little bit more, in the sense that he introduces a kind of new research agenda, because it's not only about looking at our beliefs in the technology, but it is looking and paying a particular attention to the fact that our tech interactions are filled with deceptional thinking. And I think that as a research question, as a research agenda, is fundamental. And I don't want to give the book away, so I'm just going to say that he dives into the history of deception by looking at the cultural history of AI, and by showing how the very idea of deception was linked to the very understanding of AI in Turing and the imitation game, but also in Weizenbaum's ELIZA and how people interacted with ELIZA. So to me, the concept of banal deception is of crucial importance as a research statement and a research agenda. And I try to embrace it and try to use it. And I'm trying to use it for my human error project. I believe that we have deceived ourselves to believe that our AI systems can read humans. But actually, if you look at the anthropological literature, and if you look at the work of people like Marshall Salins, most of our understanding of human nature are deeply cultural and Western-centric. So our technologies are actually putting us in front of what Salins defines as the Western illusion of human nature. And he shows what is fascinating about Salins' work is that he shows how this delusion, how this deceptional thinking can have profound political and social implications. And I just, in a quote that he makes, he said, at the end of his book, he said, "It's all been a huge mistake. My modest conclusion is that Western civilization has been constructed on a perverse and mistaken idea of human nature. Sorry, I beg your pardon. It was all a mistake. It is probably true, however, that this perverse idea of human nature endangers our existence." And Natale's concept of banal deception makes us confront with this, how deceptions in our technologies can actually lead to profound political transformation and political implications. But Natale goes also further in the sense that he does not only work on the past, so on how the cultural history of artificial intelligence has been created and shaped by the deception, but he also talks about how deception is ordinary and it's everyday, and that's why he uses the concept of banal. So there is a banal deception because we interact with this on a daily basis. So with I've been asked to think about how the book interacts with my work, and this is what I'm doing. But I think it's a fantastic book because it really kind of makes us look into the misleading interpretations and the implications of this misleading interpretation on our society when it comes to technological interactions, but also in the importance of everyday practices and how people negotiate, make meaning, and resist and act. And the notion of agency is quite strong in the book of Natale. And so I think it's opening up a really important terrain for research.